And also make sure to sub to the channel, okay? This is the main channel, the Vaush pit, and I don't know, some of the clip channels. Get over there too. Yeah, a lot of people pretend that Jordan Peterson isn't some kind of obviously partisan, like, misogynistic political hack, but he is, and you can dress that up as much as you want, but unfortunately, it remains a fact. His rhetoric is very good for his type, that's why he's popular. Well, he's just a daddy figure. It's just a bunch of, with respect, okay? There are a bunch of, like, kind of loser guys out there right now who have very little in the way of, like, self-confidence and a feeling of, like, positive masculinity. So what they're looking for is a way of legitimizing their negative feelings and trying to find and build some kind of modern identity around their masculinity, and they don't know how to do it, okay? Like, not many people are building their masculinity these days around, like, cowboy movies, because that used to be a really, really big masculine archetype, and it still is, depending on what part of America you live in. But for the most part, I think a lot of people are looking for some kind of other way of approaching these issues, of trying to find ways to, like, shore up their lost masculinity. And, that's why I think that Jordan Peterson has been so effective. He touches on so many components of traditional self-help mythology that it's really easy to fall into a spiral. But when you look at what Jordan Peterson actually says about self-help, it is, at its best, kind of okay, sort of samey, generic drivel. And that it's worse, it's explicitly politically partisan and deeply reactionary. It's pretty weird stuff. I think a lot of guys who feel lost don't really want to be patronized, which is why Jordan Peterson appeals as well, because he never comes off as, like, condescending. He comes off as sympathetic to incels, but never like there's weak little baby people who need him to reach out and personally lift them up from the dirt. Instead, he's just, he's just some wise paternal figure. Voss, did you ever call him a Nazi? No, I said he peddles a Nazi conspiracy theory, which he does, again. The postmodern neo-Marxist is just a modern incarnation of the cultural Bolshevist conspiracy theory the Nazis ran with, who said that Jews ran essentially every cultural institution, the banks, everything else in Germany, and they peddled academia in a way to promote anti-masculinity and anti-white values. It's basically just the modern incarnation of that. You just don't say Jewish people, you just say them, and kind of let the other conspiracies, like, fill in the gaps. I mean, whatever works. Yeah, globalists, SJWs, you know. Do you feel you're too hyperbolic when it comes to conservatives generally? No, not even slightly. No, I really don't think that. People say that I am, and then the conservatives go ahead and reiterate to me why my criticisms are valid. But anyway, with regards to Jordan Peterson, I just think that a lot of his self-help stuff has been successful because there is, at its root, kind of a fundamentally reactionary component to a lot of the, waylust, not so happy, meaningless, listless guys, where a lot of them feel like their masculinity has been stolen from them by a cucked world, and they need, like, Daddy Peterson to give it back or something, or at the very least to show them the way. Like Ugandan Knuckles, you know the meme? Show them the way? Exactly, like that. And I just don't think it works. Because honest to God, like, I gotta wonder, like, how many people's lives have really been made better from Jordan Peterson? Is he even, like, that loved for his self-help? Because he didn't become famous for self-help, you know. He became famous for the C-16 bill, the one that he lied about, the one that still nobody has been arrested over, but he said, like, dramatically that he was willing to be carried off to the gulags as billions and billions of free-loving Canadians were sent to jail for misgendering, like, xenogender people, and still nothing happened. Yeah, he wasn't known for his books. He was known for his his political hackery, really. He was known for being an alarmist. He also got famous for his anti-feminism. Yeah, probably not the best representative for self-help in existence, you know. I really think, like, men have to construct a new positive archetype, a new positive identity to build themselves around, but Jordan Peterson's a bad advocate for it. First of all, the dude's a fucking wreck. Second of all, he's miserable. And third of all, it seems like all of the shit he actually cares about pushing has less to do with self-help and has a lot more to do with pushing a reactionary, like, Christian nationalist worldview, which is not great for self-help, you know? It's actually pretty bad. Because if anything, it is the need to defer to a common identity that has made so many people, especially a lot of, like, middle-class white people, fucking miserable. They feel like they lack that group to latch onto. I think that's one of the reasons why suicide rates and depression are more common in white affluent people than they are in other groups. It's because if you're like poor and black or whatever, there are immediate struggles that you can relate to and communities that you can build and be a part of that relate to the existence of those struggles. I'll tell you this much, guys. I've lived in some good neighborhoods and I've lived in some bad neighborhoods, okay? And in the good neighborhoods, nobody goes out into the street to play with the neighbor's friends. But in the bad neighborhoods, you can never get people off the street. They're always playing. The kids are always running around, throwing shit around, and the adults are talking to the adults from the nearby houses because they form a community together. Fundamentally, they need to, because they share a lot of struggles and like one person babysits for the other and blah, blah. But in suburbs, rich, white, affluent suburbs, neighbors don't babysit neighbors' kids. You hire babysitters. Poor black neighborhoods don't do that. You get the neighbors to babysit your kids. So you're not going to fucking pay for a bit. Well, they are babysitting, but you know, you don't pay. It's not like, oh yeah, here's 200 for the night. It's like, okay, you can have whatever's in the fridge. And I honestly think that's like a way healthier element of community building than anything you're going to get from the kind of projected wealth. 200 can be a pretty standard fare for a upper middle class family paying a babysitter to stay the whole night. Really depends on the family. A lot of this depends massively depending on where you are. There's a lot of context here, but I think it's that lack of community. The thing is, I think that a lot of these affluent white people are looking for community in the worst possible places. This is where a lot of neo-Nazis get, you know, sort of dredged up from. They're looking for community in their identity. They're looking for it in their race. They're looking for it in their country. They're looking for it in stuff like this. You know what I mean? And that's a really bad way to form an identity. First of all, have you guys ever like seen a neo-Nazi or a far-right rally? Do any of these guys look like they're having fun? Do they even talk to each other? No, they don't. Seriously, look at these rallies. These guys are not like buddying around. They're angry and miserable and united only in a collective misery and anger. That's it, you know? But that's not the case at BLM rallies. BLM rallies, you will see people, you know, out there, ACAB 13, 12, fuck, whatever, like stuff that you'll see at 12, 13, whatever. You see all that stuff, you know. But if you go to these BLM rallies as well, there are clearly people like chatting it up and having fun everywhere. Have you guys ever been? Is that not true? You can see them often like the alleys. You can see them like leaning against the buildings. People just talk with each other. People make friends at these events. And the reason for that is because people at a BLM rally aren't uniting around their race. They're uniting around a shared belief. And there's a pretty big difference between those things, I think, fundamentally. People who go to these white nationalist rallies, there will be people with wildly incompatible views who will join together because they're all sort of under the broader umbrella of like white rights or like white power or whatever. But at BLM, I feel like there's a sort of a more directed, positive, affirmative thing to go for. TBH, Vaush, the Trump rallies get kind of hype, lol. That is true. Trump rallies are places that you guys can go to make friends. That is unironically the case. You might not make the best friends, but you can make friends there. That is 100% true. But the thing is, people at Trump rallies are usually going there not because they're like trying to meet other white people. Well, actually, no, let's be fair. A ton of them probably are. There is something more to it than the most baseline adherence to identity. The point that I'm trying to get at is that a lot of these affluent, like upper middle class white kids with no friends who are looking to reclaim their identity and their masculinity, they look for it in the wrong places. They look for it in shared anger and misery. What they should be doing is forming positive communities that actually appeal to them. You know what I mean? Form communities that make you happy. If there are local game stores that you like going to, then have fun over there. If you like playing Magic the Gathering, form communities around that, you know? Go outside, go to local venues, have the confidence to talk to people. You know, that's something that Jordan Peterson never talks on, which is really weird because it's the biggest problem with the modern world with regards to people not being able to make friends, not talking to people. Jordan Peterson never has a rule on that, which is a little weird because that's like the main reason. He doesn't talk about socializing at all. I know talking to people is difficult, but you can do it. Going out to I know COVID makes this more difficult right now, but you have to understand in the broader context that you can go out there. You can go to a goddamn bowling alley. You can go to a bowling alley. We talked about mini golf before. That's important. You can go to game shops like where they have Warhammer stuff or Magic the Gathering or Pokemon cards. Not that you'd ever catch me dead playing that. You can go to conventions. You can go to this. You can go to that. You can go to anywhere that you have an interest in and find people who are cool to talk to, you know? You can literally go online right now, as long as you live in a medium-sized city, and probably find Facebook groups that pertain to interests near you. Or if it's a big enough city, you can probably find archived lists of ongoing community spots that happen at regular intervals all over the city, and you can attend them. When I was in Los Angeles, which is one of the biggest cities in the world, of course, there were websites like you can, I don't remember the name of the site, but you could like, I typed in Los Angeles and then gave it like an address to find like a zoom around. And within 25 miles, there were like hundreds of things going on. I ended up going to a hiking group and had a fun time talking with people there. So that was good. You know, I didn't go back though because that hike was hard. my my ankles aren't the best. What if you don't have money to spend on social events? You don't have to spend money at these places. You just have to go and talk to people. You don't even have to do that. I mean, you could literally just like walk to anything nearby which is of public interest and strike up conversations there. You don't have to. Guys, I know this is going to be crazy, but it's not actually that big of a deal to talk to somebody, you know? I know that in our modern busy world, we've normalized looking down at your phone and not ever engaging with anyone around you unless you have a very specific, very deliberate context in which you should. But it really isn't that big of a deal to just talk with people. You know what I mean? Talk with the people who help you with the service whenever you're buying groceries, you know, go to a park somewhere nearby. Talk to people there if there's something going on. Go to I don't know. Don't go to a skate park though. Don't go to a skate park though. Jordan Peterson warned us about that. Yeah, go to the DSA. I don't know. Just talk to people, okay? What if you're autistic and awful at conversation? Then do an interpretive dance. Look, socializing, like anything else you can do, is like a muscle, okay? You practice it and you get better at doing it, and then you get more poggers, more powerful, okay? And then you can go out and you can do it more easily in the future. What if I die? Well, then at least you died doing something worthwhile, okay? What if you don't feel the need to do so? Then don't listen to me. If you don't want to do this stuff, then don't listen to me. I'm just talking about socializing. If you want to talk to more people, and in speaking with more people, I think it's easier for people to construct a healthy version of masculinity, which is what we're sort of circling around back to with Jordan Peterson, because so many men who feel lost construct their masculinity in isolation, which is really, really strange. You know, most people, especially women, construct their femininity in relation to social expectation. It's not something they develop in isolation because of what they think women should be. They usually have it pressed on them. They're informed by the women in their life and by the results they get whenever they go outside looking like X or Y, how they are socially expected to behave, and then they learn to work within that space or break it entirely depending on how they want to go. But a lot of men, I'm be real with you guys, a lot of guys are essentially like iso chambered until they're 18 with nothing about masculinity except for maybe like movies and how dudes act in like TV shows, impressing upon them what they're supposed to be as a man. So they construct their masculine identity through some sort of ridiculous, completely detached, like society doesn't inform you or contextualize you in any way. You just assemble it together online. And this is why I don't like Jordan Peterson's imagine who you could be and then pursue it like with everything you've got thing. Because if you leave guys alone, they will develop the stupidest versions of masculinity in the universe. If you leave a guy alone long enough, you find them like playing Warhammer 40K, unironically wishing that they lived in that universe because it's more manly. That is not something that women do, by the way, okay? That is not something that women do at all, okay? That's not, yeah, if you leave men alone with this, you will see them like consume nothing but God. Even Preacher made fun of this. You know, Preacher, the comic series where he did nothing but watch like John Wayne movies. And then like he built his version of masculinity around John Wayne to the point where he started developing the affects and accents of people who he'd never lived with. Like, yeah, he was literally like a satire of that, you know? And he was fucking insane. Yeah, you're store-buying masculinity. Of course you don't know how to be a man. You don't talk to anyone. You don't talk to women. How can you know? And this may sound like cis heteronormative or whatever, but you're delusional if you don't think that what we consider to be masculinity is informed by relationships with feminine people. Not relationship in the sense of like being with them, but relationship like talking with them or being around them or understanding what they want from you. You can break from those expectations if you want. I'm not saying this is like normatively a valuable thing. I'm not saying this is how it should be. I'm saying that for most people, how you learn to be a man is informed in some way by how you engage with women, and likewise with women. And of course, it's more complicated than this, but I'm trying to talk about like broader expectations. You get what I'm talking about, right? You understand what I'm talking about? Yeah, Vermin, exactly, exactly. And so many people, so many guys are looking for like some archetype of masculinity that they can like cut out of a page like it's a face out of a glam magazine and put it on their own face, you know? Which is so ridiculous. And it leads to a lot of really miserable, unhappy people because reality is incompatible with whatever archetypes they've built for themselves. Some people build like completely untenable versions of masculinity, encounter the real world, and then that's when they get super mad about the rest of the world being super feminine and gigacucked, you know? If a guy is a social reject until he's 22, spent that entire time period building up some kind of facade of masculinity, and then realized the world is more complicated than that, he's going to lash out at that world. A ton of reactionary politics stem from men not understanding how they were supposed to have developed their masculinity in the absence of proper socialization. And a lot of men don't get socialization because we socialize men in what limited ways we do to be individualistic, isolated, atomized, unwilling to open up to the people around them, uncomfortable with sincere expressions of affection, and undesirable in like every social sense. So we fuck men up by telling them that they're not worthy of the attention that people need to properly develop an internal identity. And then when they fail to develop an internal identity, they adopt a bad one prompted by grifters and dipshits. And then when that one doesn't work out for them, they're just like a doomer-pilled, black, gate-kept, gaslight, incel fuck dude.